Hello and welcome. I'm Malcolm. This is Mal in the Movies. Thank you for joining me. Today I am looking at The Marksman, directed by Robert Lorenz. This is actually his second directorial effort. His first was Trouble with the Curve, and that is why The Marksman feels like a Clint Eastwood joint. It's kind of interesting that the man with no name would hand off his films to the man with a particular set of skills. It is very much aligned with The Mule. It's sort of a companion piece to The Mule. I can easily see Clint Eastwood playing this part maybe 15, 20 years ago. He's now handed the baton off to Liam Neeson. In this one, he has the particular set of skills of a marksman. Go figure. And he uses those skills, and that's the brilliant part about this movie because it really sticks to its premise. The marksman, the long-range gun firing, the sniper talent, and it delivers. The movie structures the story around that skill so that that one skill becomes his superpower. So we find Liam Neeson as a retired ranch hand, trying to scrape by an income. He's down on his luck. The bank is foreclosing on his ranch. His wife has just died. He just wants to be left alone. Just leave me the F alone to die already, you know. I lost everything I had. I worked my whole goddamn life and I lost everything I had. This goddamn systems. So that's where we find Liam Neeson. Neeson lives right by the border, so he's always driving along the border as you do. He just happens to come across, in his beat-up old pickup truck, a young woman and her son fleeing across the border through a hole in the fence. So much for the border wall there, Mr. Trump. This movie was shot, actually physically filmed in 2019, so definitely right within the middle of the Trump years. A nudge there towards how effective the border wall is. They just move a chunk of fence and walk through. And find themselves running across Liam Neeson's pickup truck as four very scary cartel members chase them on the other side. That's the story. Liam Neeson is left with this kid, and he's got to save the kid from the cartel and get him to his family up in the northeast over by Chicago, Illinois, where, according to the film, they make the best hot dogs. I'm not just winging it today. I've got notes. Imagine that. This is a really solid film, actually. I really liked it. Just to cut to the chase, I thought it really delivers. This film really is above the grade in terms of this genre. I mean, not like super exceeding it, but it is slightly above the grade. It is an elegant film. The elegance comes from the soundtrack. It comes from the cinematography, the editing, the pacing, the quality of the cast. The young actor is really fabulous. The kid who plays Miguel, his name is Jacob Perez. He does a fantastic job. Really great young kid actor. Loved his work. Really believable. Of course, you got Liam Neeson. Needs no introduction. He's as good as ever. I read some reviews that said he wasn't that good in this film. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because he's great. He's Liam Neeson. What do you want? That's what he makes his money on. Well, yeah, it's gorgeous. Cinematography is gorgeous. The location shooting is really gorgeous. The bulk of the movie, once we get away from the border situation, is shot in Ohio. You get these grand sunsets, these beautiful country locations, this feel of heartland America, which is so powerful. Perhaps I should consult my notes, which I so sold you on. The setup is fantastic. They've really plotted out the movie to play out into this concept of the marksman. And I think, you know, the best part of the film is when it delivers on that premise, because that's what you're there for. It really smartly sets up the last action sequence to make use of Liam Neeson's particular set of skills. And for my money, it really, really worked. I was amazed, actually, when I saw what they planned and how they planned it. And I was impressed. I was like, that's really smart, and I totally believe that, and it's wonderful. So kudos to the film for that. So I think when a film actually delivers its premise, especially in the final act, that's a win-win for me. So, you know, I'm gonna go into some of the head-shaking moments in this film because there are a few, and, you know, it's fun. Any genre movie, you often have to check your disbelief at the door and just play along, right? So one of the first head-shaking moments for me that was really funny was that these cartel members, when they cross the border, they show these fake passports to the Border Patrol, and one of them has a passport with a photo of like an old lady in it, and I'm like, what? And the Border Patrol guy just doesn't even bat an eye, hands them back, and they move along. And I'm like, what? What are they trying to insinuate in the film? That the cartel is so powerful that they own the Border Patrol? I mean, is that a thing? So yeah, it did strain credibility, and it's set up when Rosa, the mom, is killed by the cartel. They didn't really sell that as well as they could have. Rosa is played by Teresa Ruiz wonderfully. You know, you don't want her to die, obviously, but you know, you understand what the story is, and that the story has to get you to Liam Neeson and this boy going on a road trip up to Chicago. So she has to die. I just think they could have done that a little better. They just kind of like watch her die in the dirt and no one's like trying to save her. It's like, that's not how people die. You fucking get them in your car and you fucking try and get them to somewhere. I think they could have done that a little better, made that a little more dramatic. They could have got her to somebody and then she just bleeds out or whatever. But anyway, enough said. It wasn't very believable. Also, I thought it was kind of a bit of a stretch that this ex-Marine who's fought in Vietnam and has this particular set of skills doesn't know not to use his credit card when he's going on a road trip so that people can track him, right? So I know that, and I don't have any special set of spy skills. Apparently, Liam Neeson doesn't know that, and he's like using his credit card everywhere, and he's got a bag of cash just sitting in the truck. I'm like, what? All right, so you gotta like put your disbelief aside for that one. And then eventually he's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be using this credit card. Yeah, do you think? So the way they finally find him is they have these two guys on his overpass just staring at the highway, you know, looking for his pickup truck. And you're like, I hope they don't friggin' blink, you know, they're gonna miss him. So that was a little funny. And they're like, oh, there he is. After like a day of standing in the sun looking at cars, I think you'd go mental. You know? So not these guys. Maybe it helps having a snake tattooed to your face, that maybe that kind of like sharpens your acuity for staring at traffic coming at you endlessly for hours. Just to wrap up then, finally, what really worked for me about this movie, as I mentioned, is its elegance, its tone, its style. It's kind of an old school throwback style of filmmaking. Of course, Robert Lorenz and his pedigree working under Clint Eastwood. It has that Eastwood feel of a movie, you know, that has time, that develops on character and just genuinely being there with the characters and the great acting. I think that this elegance shows a confidence in the director, and because it really does rely on something that's unique in these action type movies, which is restraint. It doesn't overcook the goose, doesn't sacrifice plot to give you more action and thrills that are ultimately unbelievable. That's one thing I really admire about this movie, is it's plotted well, the pacing is terrific, the tone, as I said, and the elegance of it, which comes through in the soundtrack and the score. The score is never used artificially to ramp up your nerves. It just delivers the film that it wants to be. It doesn't pretend to be something it isn't. So I really admired it for that. I would recommend this film to cross-generational viewers. I can see grandparents and dads and kids watching this together and having a good time. The kids are going to identify with the young boy, Miguel, and of course us dads are going to identify with Neeson. I highly recommend this film. I'm going to give it a B, a solid B, which is 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think that's a fair mark for this film. It's not reinventing cinema, it's simply delivering on its premise, and it's delivering above its grade, I think, in terms of standard genre fare. It's a delightful film for any Eastwood fan, particularly like me. I've grown up watching Clint Eastwood. It's a classy film and it's worth seeing. I forgot to mention one little Easter egg. There's a Clint Eastwood movie playing on the TV in the hotel room, and that movie shows a clip from Hang 'em High. It was a little homage to Clint Eastwood from Robert Lorenz. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a chance to seek out The Marksman. It's now coming out on Blu-ray and DVD, as well as being available on VOD. Seek it out. I think you're really going to enjoy it as much as I did. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you think of it. Is there anything you didn't like about it? What did you like about it? Please like and subscribe, and thank you as always for being here. It's such a pleasure to have you. Wishing you all the best in your day and whatever you're doing. Till next time. See you then.